Today we're taking a look back at the Google Pixel 4a in 2024. It was released in 2020, but how good is it today? The speed of the Google Pixel 4a is still pretty fast. It has a Snapdragon 730G and you can quickly switch between apps, but it isn't the fastest. Sometimes it might take half a second for it to open an app, and it's also definitely not meant for gaming, but overall it still feels smooth in my opinion. Especially for doing daily stuff like internet browsing, watching YouTube. It still works completely fine. The phone right now is on Android 13 and has the August 5th 2023 security update, which is definitely not the latest and it won't get any updates after this probably, so that is very disappointing. However, that doesn't mean that the phone is unusable. Don't expect the fastest performance, but it's also not bad at all. And you have the Google Pixel experience, which is really nice and close to stock Android. It doesn't come installed with a lot of bloatware, so that's also one thing that I really like. The phone also feels very stable and it hasn't crashed on me, so that's a really good thing. It has 128GB of storage and I think that is more than enough for most people. But it also has unlimited Google Photos storage backup for free. It is in reduced quality, but it's still an amazing feature to have and the newer Pixels don't have this. The build quality of the Google Pixel 4a is definitely not amazing. It is made from plastic on the back. However, on the front it does have Gorilla Glass, which is nice, but the back feels very cheap. And you can see that it can get scratches pretty easily, so that's definitely not a good thing. However, I do really like the design of this phone. And especially when you look at the front, it has these thin bezels around the screen with the small camera cutout. And you can see that the bezel on the bottom isn't that big compared to the rest of the phone. And even for 2024, it still looks modern. And I also like the different colored power button. It also has a USB-C port, which is really nice, but what I love even more is that it has a headphone jack. So you can listen to audio, plug in your headphones, and the newer Pixels don't have this. But keep in mind that the Pixel 4a isn't water or dust resistant. And it also doesn't have wireless charging. However, wired charging works completely fine and pretty fast. And the battery life of the Pixel 4a is still decent and definitely much better compared to the Pixel 4. You can get about a day of battery life, but not much more than that. So don't expect 2 or 3 days, but it isn't also so terrible that you can only get through half a day. However, if you are someone who uses your phone a lot, then you might not be able to get it to the end of the day. The screen of the Pixel 4a is really nice in my opinion. Even though it is 60Hz, it isn't bad. Some people might not like that it has 60Hz, but for me it isn't an issue because you get used to it when you are using the phone. And especially at this price point, because you get a lot of other nice features, for example a good camera in this phone. But the screen can also go pretty bright. And it is also a compact phone, so it's easy to carry around. But keep in mind, if you are in the sun and it's very bright outside, then you might not be able to see the screen very well. There's also a speaker on the bottom of the phone and it also uses the earpiece to create a stereo effect. So you can hear left and right, however they are a bit unbalanced, but they are definitely not bad in my opinion. And they are even better than my Pixel 5. The 4a also has a fingerprint sensor on the back and I also prefer this over the newer Pixels. Because it's fast, you just hit it and it unlocks very fast. It's also at an amazing position. When you pick up the phone, you immediately press the fingerprint sensor and it also has the swipe down for the notifications. Last up, let's talk about the camera, because that's one of the biggest selling points of the Pixel 4a. When you look at the back, you only see a single 12 megapixel camera, which doesn't sound impressive at all. However, it is using the Google camera software that does some really nice processing, which means that your photos will look really nice and it doesn't take a lot of effort to get a good image out of this phone. You just point and shoot and you will get a good image. Even the older Google Pixels can still capture some really nice images. But keep in mind that the video quality isn't that amazing. Also, you don't have an ultra-wide camera on here, so if you want to capture more in the shot, you won't be able to do it with this one. But I would rather have one very good camera than 2 or 3 bad cameras. So should you buy the Pixel 4a in 2024? Well, it depends. If you want a cheap phone and don't need the best performance but want a good camera, then this can still be a decent option. Just keep in mind that the security updates have stopped. And of course it isn't perfect. For example, it has no wireless charging, it isn't weatherproof, it also doesn't have an ultra-wide camera. But on the other hand, the price isn't expensive, it has a headphone jack, it is very compact, and the performance might not be the best, but it's still decent. So what do you think of the Pixel 4a? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you so much for watching.